We do begin with that dramatic release of Brittney Griner, the WNBA star, freed from a Russian penal colony and heading back to the U.S. after nearly 300 days of imprisonment.
New video from Russian state media shows Brittney Griner before she was released into U.S. custody. At one point in this footage, you can see Griner in an airplane answering questions about her release.
What's your mood?
Happy.
Happy? Well, are you ready for long flight?
Yes.
Yes. Good.
Do you know where I'm heading to? No. No?
No. Вы летите домой.
You fly back home. To the U.S. To the U.S.
Да, конечно. Так что все будет нормально.
Everything will be fine. Okay.
What a moment there. This comes after the Biden administration struck a deal with the Kremlin to release a convicted Russian arms dealer, Viktor Bout, in exchange for Griner.
President Biden tweeting the photo of him with Griner, confirming that she will be coming back soon after months of intense negotiations. You can also see her wife there by her side, by his side. The president also speaking at the White House today alongside Sherelle, Brittney Griner's wife. Let's take a listen.
This is a day we've worked toward for a long time. We never stopped pushing for her release. It took painstaking and intense negotiations, and I want to thank all the hard-working public servants across my administration who worked tirelessly to secure her release.
And for more, let's bring in ABC News senior investigative reporter Aaron Katursky, along with ABC News' Karen Travers there from the White House, and our Jay O'Brien, who's up on the Hill, plus Phil Lipoff in New York, and Dr. Danny Gilbert, fellow at John Sloan Dickey Center for International Understanding at Dartmouth College. We have quite the panel.
All-star panel.
So we do have an all-star panel. Aaron, let's just start with you. Griner now on her way home from Russia. That was pretty amazing to see that video from inside the airplane. What do you make of that footage from Russian state media? Clearly, she looks like she's in good health. She's excited to come back. But this is actually the first time we're really seeing true footage, not in a jail cell.
And that smile is everything, isn't it, Kira? And it really does, I think, speak to what President Biden said earlier today and what the administration has been telling us, that Brittney Griner is in an upbeat mood and seems to be in good health. She'll get checked out at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio before she ends up going home or wherever it is that she's going to go for the next little bit. But she does look upbeat. She does seem to be smiling and in good health. And I can tell you, Kira, that we've learned in the last few minutes, thanks to some unsealed court documents, that the arrangements for all of this to take place go back to at least November 29th. That's when the administration requested that the Bureau of Prisons release Viktor Bout from incarceration at a federal penitentiary in Marion, Illinois. That was supposed to happen sometime, the document says, between December 2nd and December 16th. And so this is right in that window. And so the pieces have been in motion to set the stage for this release today for at least a few days now.
And Karen, this is a moment for the president as well. He says that his administration has been working tirelessly to secure the release of Griner. What do we know about that, and what else are they saying?
Terry, the first offer from the administration was made public in the summer. That's when the administration said they had put on the table a substantial offer to the Russians to secure the release of Brittney Griner and also American Paul Whelan, who is in custody in Russia on espionage charges. They didn't get into details of what that offer was, but sources said it was in exchange for Viktor Bout, which Aaron Katursky just mentioned there. But it became clear in the subsequent months then that the Russians were not engaging with the administration, were essentially ignoring that offer on the table. And then right after the midterm elections, President Biden told me that he felt that because the elections had taken place, the Russians were going to be more serious about negotiations to get Brittney Griner home, that they were going to engage in a more serious way. And now here we are a couple weeks later. Today, the White House said that in recent weeks, it became clear that they were going to consider Brittney Griner's case differently than Paul Whelan, the Russians would, and that in recent days it was clear that this was going to be an offer for Brittney Griner or nobody, that this was not a choice about which American to bring home, Griner or Whelan. It was Griner or nobody.
And Jay, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle celebrated, of course, Griner's release, but also questioned the decision to swap Griner for known international arms dealer Viktor Bout. Let's talk about some of the biggest concerns here and if he still is deemed a threat.
Yeah, there are lawmakers who are obviously rejoicing based upon that news. Speaker Pelosi said that Griner suffered unthinkable trauma, that she was overjoyed by Griner's return. But as you mentioned, there are Republicans specifically, but those in all parties who are saying that they are discouraged by the fact that Viktor Bout was not swapped for both Griner and Whelan. Kevin McCarthy tweeted this. I want to show it to you. He said that it was unconscionable, were his words, that the merchant of death, that's Viktor Bout, was returned to Putin, but leaving Paul Whelan, that's the second page of that, behind. We saw, again, unconscionable is the word at the end of that tweet that you see there. Mike McCall, a Republican, said that he was relieved that Brittney Griner was coming home, but felt that this prisoner swap served to only embolden other countries to kidnap Americans, to wrongfully imprison Americans in the hopes of some kind of a potential prisoner swap. I can tell you that I asked Sheila Jackson Lee, the representative for Griner's home district in Houston, what she made of this genesis of this deal, meaning that when the White House first unveiled the potential for this deal, there was the idea that we were swapping two Americans, Paul Whelan and Griner, for one, Viktor Bout. And then, of course, coming to today, it turns into a one-for-one swap. She blamed Vladimir Putin for that and said that he was not negotiating in a way that would have gotten two Americans back. We know that the White House said that earlier today as well, that they believe that Russia was not negotiating in, quote, good faith for both Griner and Whelan, but only for Griner and not in Whelan's case. So the question as to what happens next for Paul Whelan, that is an open question, guys.
Yeah, that really is. And it's pretty clear, as Karen just reported, that Putin was holding back, hoping for friendlier Congress or some kind of pressure on Biden out of the midterms. A weaker Biden, perhaps. Maybe that was part of the equation as well. It didn't turn out that way. So let's bring in Dr. Danny Gilbert. And I just want to mention to our audience that your expertise, your field of study is your research, it says, explores the causes and consequences of hostage taking in international security. What an interesting area to study. And you're just the person to have here. So talk to us about this deal, what you see in it, and what it might mean for Paul Whelan.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's rare that I get to be part of a happy news story. So I'm so glad to see Brittney Griner coming home. And this moment is really bittersweet in terms of what it means for Paul Whelan. I think it suggests that, first of all, the lines of communication are open, that the United States and Russia are negotiating, but that the Russians are really playing hardball, that they consider Paul Whelan in a different category. And whatever that means, that it might make it harder to get him home, that it might take more time and possibly different or additional concessions from the United States government to bring him back. But I believe that the government is committed to doing that and that they will continue to work tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure that he and all other wrongfully detained Americans come home as quickly as possible.
And Phil, as you know, you reported that Paul Whelan was able to give an interview after hearing the news from prison, called in actually to CNN, and it's audio only, but he made it very clear that he was very happy that Brittney is going home, but he still doesn't understand why he is sitting there in prison still, and that he's greatly disappointed that more hasn't been done to secure his release.
Right, and that statement goes on, as you see there, Karis. He says, especially as the 4-year anniversary of my arrest is coming up, he says, I was arrested for a crime that it never occurred. I don't understand why I am still here. He went on to plead directly to President Biden, saying his bags are packed and he's ready to go. But as Karen and Dr. Danny just reported, it's not that simple. For some reason or another, the Russians see him in another category. We do know that the lines of communication are open. We spoke to a senior administration official today that said they expect the channel with Moscow to remain open to discuss Whelan's release and breaking through whatever impasse there is. They say that it's a sham espionage charge against him. President Biden himself today, during sort of that victory lap, saying that Brittney Griner is coming home with her wife behind him. Also, the vice president, he made it a point to speak Paul Whelan's name more than once and said, we've not forgotten about Paul. We're working on it. And it's just, you know, as Karen said, this wasn't a choice, both of them to come home. It was a choice of both of them or none of them. And the United States decided to bring Brittney Griner home at this point.
Can't wait for that interview. Aaron, Phil, Karen, Jay, and Dr. Danny, great to have you all.
Thanks very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.